Alright, here is the picture tutorial for the dreidel. So the first step will be to make some diagonal creases with the colored side down. Oh, there we go. Color side down. You flip it over, and now we're going to make horizontal creases. This will give us the creases for a water bomb base. Like such. We're going to flip it back over. Now what we need to do is we need to make creases for kind of the start of a frog base. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide each of these 45-degree angles in half. To do that, let's see if I can rotate. Guess I can't. I should force a rotation here. There we go. So what we're going to do, full screen, is we're going to fold the points A such that they line up with the creases of B. And you'll see what I mean. And those are the points of A, kind of those arrows, and you see how they line up with B. We will repeat that, dividing each of the remaining 45 degrees in half until you have that. Now you collapse it into basically the step before a frog base. Uh, this will remain like this for now. We're not going to petal fold like you would on a frog base. Instead, we are just going to move one of these flaps over on each side, and we're going to start folding those triangular flaps up like such, and then repeat on all the sides. Now you want to take where that triangular flap, that little corner meets, you're going to make a crease that's about 45 degrees off of 90 degrees from kind of where that is. If you imagine this crease coming down, making one side of a 90-degree angle, and then where it meets that point, if you were to come off 90 degrees off that, take that, kind of fold that in half like that. It's about 45. It doesn't need to be exact, just consistent. So it won't lay flat. You'll kind of have that shape there. You're going to reflatten it and repeat what you just did on the other side. And now we're just showing that we're moving some of the layers over and repeating. Move a layer over and repeat until you've done this through all the layers with a crease kind of going the same way throughout. You're kind of trying to make a spiral of creases, if that makes sense. So each crease on this side should be a valley. Each crease on that side of the line should be a mountain. So all these are valleys, all these are mountains. And you're just making them one at a time going through the paper. Now you're going to take two of those valleys up. So you can grab two layers there, take them up, and make a valley. Make that valley through. So kind of like when we were making the crease, this time we're just taking two flaps up at the same time. This is just another view looking at it from the bottom. Now what we're going to do, wrong way. Now what we're going to do, now that we have those two flaps up, we've kind of spread it a little, we're going to shift this crease above my thumb right here over some. And the amount over you want to shift, so that crease right there was the crease there. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift it such that this line, this edge, and this edge kind of meet halfway. So if you imagine dividing this segment in half is where this should meet. And of course, the distance of this line changes depending on how much you move the crease over. But you want it such that this distance, where that triangle is going to intersect it, if that makes sense, is half of the total distance. And you can just kind of slowly adjust the creases until on that S there, this is me trying to explain this, roughly half. you're eyeballing it. You're trying to get as close to half as possible. Um, it doesn't need to be perfect here, but the closer, the better. Now you're going to keep doing that along the edges. And you'll notice if they're all halves or very close to halves, they should meet about like that with not much gap here and not much overlap. With all of these triangles being roughly the same shape and size, that's what you're going for. And eventually you'll do it around all the edges and you'll end up with a shape like this. It'll look kind of like a little bit of whipped cream or something. Um, and just be careful, this top has tendency to tear, especially if you're doing it with kami. And I recommend starting with 10-inch kami for this model. 6-inch kami or 15 centimeter kami, it's generally too small. You can make it out of kami that's small, but it has a tendency to kind of unfold itself because the paper will be pretty thick when you're done. Even with 10-inch kami, the paper gets pretty thick, but that's kind of desirable because it gives it some heft and some rigidity, if that makes any sense. Because there's a lot of layers in the middle, so it kind of fills up the model, if that makes sense. So now we have this. This is kind of what it looks like from underneath. Now what we want to do is, because right now, if I can get to, there we go. Right now, this angle is obtuse, where this kind of comes out, comes down that center line, where it displays is obtuse. We want it to be acute, because we want this to be a spinning top, so, or dreidel, so we want to kind of pop these layers upwards, those triangles coming off, like such. So I'm just putting very gently some pressure on the top and just rearranging. It helps sometimes to twist it a little, to twist the center a little to get it to stay. Now what we're going to do to help lock it in that upright position, we're going to take those triangles that we saw from underneath and just kind of fold them down over. This won't perfectly lock the model, but it helps it hold its shape. It will pretty easily pop out of position at this point in time, though, so be careful with it. The next step is we're kind of looking at the side view now. You see these, what will make up the handle of the model needs to be a lot thinner. So to do this, we just take one of these flaps and we fold it down kind of toward where it curls into the model. So we're just taking this and folding that in half, and then when we get down here, we're kind of making a little reverse fold, inside reverse fold, in toward the model, kind of like such. So there you can see it started. You gotta kind of carefully work your way around and repeat this step on all the sides until you have that.